Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome back to the 53206 cast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Meg.
And Meg.
Yeah.
This is a podcast.
It is.
This is a podcast to help the listener start to have an understanding of what it would be like to live in an area of concentrated poverty, specifically in an urban area of concentrated poverty. Sometimes people call them inner cities. Sometimes people use the term ghetto as one of the terms thrown around to talk about an area like the one that we live in. But Meg, I have found that the more that you understand something, the more that does to you on a human level.
Yeah.
So, if you, I think it's a pretty common, nowadays it's pretty common that people in general have, and it hasn't always been this way, and in fact, over the last 20 years that we've lived here, it hasn't always been that way, but I would say predominantly now, people think of the inner city in a slightly different way maybe than they had in the past. And that way is starting to, at least from what I've seen, to become a little more empathetic.
Yeah.
And part of that empathy is that, wanting to understand, well, how did an area like this arrive at the way that it is?
And what part do I play?
Sure. Yeah, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting that we'd kind of talk about that for a little bit, but Meg, the book Bad Neighborhoods, which I forget sometimes that I wrote.
You did, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's fine. If you want to, you just listen to it for free. On it's also a podcast.
Yeah,
you can listen to it. It's called Bad Neighborhoods. But one of the overlying theses of that book was that we sort of all just do things, and those things result in areas where poverty is more highly concentrated.
And I think when you say we all do things, like we all go and we all live somewhere because
very boring,
because
normal,
that's just that's what everyone else does. Like
right.
We all go out to the suburbs to live after you graduate from college, and there's no real reason. No one really thought like, yeah, I want to go do that, or no one puts a lot of thought into it.
Well, I know at least for us, we were very young when we bought our house, and I know a lot of other people were also very young.
Yeah.
When they bought their houses, and or you make other big life decisions.
Yeah,
and it you don't really necessarily think about how your individual life decisions, when coupled with all of the other millions, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people making similar decisions, what that then results in.
Yeah.
And what it results in a lot of times is that some places are more desirable, clearly, and then if there's places that are more desirable, then obviously there's places that are less desirable.
Yeah.
And those less desirable areas are the ones that are left over for individuals that don't have the means to access the more desirable areas.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a great question. Can I change things up a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. We didn't really know what we were going to talk about on this podcast. So
I always know what we're going to talk about.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change it up. So we had We Got This Garden, we had a volunteer day, which it's so funny because I'm always putting these volunteer days out and like Barb comes or just like one person comes, which is always great.
Barb's great.
Barb's great. So great. Well, two people came and the news came today.
Okay.
And the news didn't come for We Got This. It came for this person who was volunteering, which was great. And so I got an opportunity to talk with some people who had never been to the garden and who had never been to this area.
Okay.
And the one gentleman, he was really, really great. He was very kind, and I was like, I'm sorry, we're like running all over the place, and like there was this other event going on that we had to like kind of like pull some of the kids to help with, and so I just kept apologizing to him, and he was so wonderful. But so he was kind of like, how long have you been involved? And so I was kind of telling him my involvement, and I always like brag like, oh, I planted the strawberries and the mint. Now there's like a ton of mint and there's some strawberries, 14 years ago in the We Got This Garden. And, he was like, why are you part of it? And I was like, oh, I live right over there. And, so he was kind of asking some really good questions. And he said, what made you stay? Sure. And I thought, oh, that's such an interesting question. Like what made us stay here? And so that's what I would like to just kind of talk about.
Well, yeah, and I guess maybe you're right, Meg. Maybe I wasn't planning on talking about this specific thing, but I think it actually does kind of circle back to what I was talking about at the beginning, was
Mm-hmm.
that when you make an intentional decision to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
but you make an intentional decision to put yourself in a location, I think in some ways you can't help but then look for the good in that situation or whatever the circumstance that
Yeah.
you find yourself
Yeah.
in. You know, I know, like, you know, we've got a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, and when we tell them that they have to go do something, they're very vocal about
Very.
not wanting to go do, you know, even if it's something like, oh, we're going trick-or-treating. No, that's stupid. Like, well, okay, you've been talking about trick-or-treating all week. Fine, whatever. But when you make a choice and you decide that this is the right thing for you to do, even when you're very young and
Yeah.
very stupid, you still are looking for the good that exists.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in some ways you don't want to come to the conclusion that you made a mistake. You know what I mean?
And I feel like that's more you.
Sure.
You're like, I feel like you really live your life that you want like to put a, like everything has to be logical almost. And like
Okay.
you have to like compartmentalize things. And like, I feel like you don't want to say, you have a very hard time saying I made a mistake.
Oh, whatever. No,
And-
I'll be the first. Well,
You
I'll be
won't.
the second to say. You'll be the first to say that I
I'll
made
be
a
the
mistake,
first. So I
and I'll
think
be the second.
that definitely reigns true with your logical mind, that you just want to like, you want a place for everything, and like, okay, here's the place for like why we lived here.
Sure, but I think that you decide that that's
Yeah.
what you're going to
Yeah.
do, and part of that decision is that, you know, well, it's not like, not everything is going to be working out perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and in life in general, like, it doesn't just work out
No.
perfect.
No.
And there'll be challenges, and there'll be things that you wouldn't expect along the way. But and I was just talking to the kids about this a couple of days ago, Meg, because we had some kind of silly things happen in
Sure.
the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We were hanging out watching. I think we were watching Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Maybe. So it was probably a Sunday night,
Yeah.
and we. I heard what kind of sounded like somebody maybe banging on the front door. At least it kind of sounded that way. Or
There were small explosions.
Yeah.
Is what I remember
Yeah.
hearing.
So something happened. Remember the last time, or one of the last times, it was on Thanksgiving, and we were watching Independence
Yes.
Day, and we had just gotten this new
Sound system.
sound
Yeah.
system, just like the
Yeah.
cheap sound bar thing
Yeah,
you
yeah.
buy for the TV. And I thought, I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. We're gonna have this new sound. It wasn't. I don't even actually notice the difference, but maybe it's just because I'm going deaf. But
Yeah,
we're watching Independence Day, and, you know, stuff's blowing up, and we hear a loud explosion, and I think, oh, this sound bar is
That's
really, really, really putting out the sound.
Turns out there was
Turns out a car had hit a street light right in front of the house,
right in front of the house.
Like,
yeah.
30 feet from where we're sitting.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the sound on that Sunday night reminded me of that
Mm.
sound, and so I was like, okay, I should go look around,
Yeah.
and see what's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on,
yeah.
because you know, something's going on. And I walk out of the back door and kind of just look towards, really, like in my line of sight, like over to We Got This, and there's a car on fire.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was crazy. And we were driving to school a couple of days. It might have even been the next day. And I like to look at the different houses when I drive the kids. So I drop my daughter off at my sister's house, who lives right across from Rufus King, and my daughter stays there to go to school. And then I pick up my sister's kids, and then we drive all together to go to school. And on the way, there's an abandoned house, and as we're driving, I noticed that there's something like on the, because, you know, I like to notice the abandoned houses.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just like to look at them
Yeah,
and see what they're doing. And on the porch roof is two dogs
Yeah.
just sitting, hanging out on the roof of the porch.
Yeah. And they were huskies.
One of them was a husky. Yeah,
Which,
it looked just like, I thought maybe our dog had.
Yeah. Gotten out. You never know.
You never know. But you know, Meg, you know, that wouldn't be a reason to to stay living somewhere is that you have these, you call them unique experiences, but that's part of the charm, I think, of living here.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that we don't. I'm never a fan of saying something negative about the neighborhood, but the things that are kind of again unique are at least they give you a good story to tell, and I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could explain that to somebody who came to volunteer at We Got This. That I like the kind of unique and crazy stories, but a lot of the things we talk about on the podcast, like I think that if you aren't if they're not happening right in front of you, you would think, oh, I don't want that thing to happen. Maybe the dogs would be kind of cool, but but nobody wants to look out their back door and see a car on fire. Yeah. But at the same time, it's at least mildly made for
Dex was real excited
a very
about it.
different Sunday night.
He went and grabbed his phone and was taking pictures. And
I know. I was like, oh God, he's gonna end up on World Star Hip Hop or something, or
I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The kids when I taught middle school, it's like way back in the day, they would always be watching World Star Hip Hop on their computers.
I have no idea what that is.
It's usually just people fighting.
Oh, okay.
Like people fighting at the mall, or like
so,
school fights.
So I think I feel like I've thought about this for a good, I don't know, at least 20 minutes.
Okay. Sorry, I was rambling there.
What? No, not because you were rambling. I've taken a little bit of time to think about, because I feel like the answer I gave the gentleman who was volunteering, I think I said like the garden. I said something about the garden, and it makes it's great, whatever. But I think on reflection, like probably after that, I was probably thinking about it, and there was an event going on, and I had two situations that I thought, this is why I stay here. And so one of them was talking with the woman who we did a podcast on her housing situation.
Okay.
She was the one that she texted me because her
appliances caught on fire or something.
Yeah. Sure. And so she was, I was kind of asking her, we walked down the street together, and I was asking her, how's stuff going with housing? And she said, she's like, I've been trying to move out for 2 years. And and so she was like, I think I finally have a place, but, there's been so many times that I gave people money and they didn't give it back. And, I feel like meeting people like her makes my eyes open. I would much rather live life knowing that, wow, there are some people who have had some super shitty situations happen to them, that life is not fair to them. And I'm glad that I can see that, because I don't want to live my life without knowing those kinds of situations. And then the other situation, which we've done a podcast on this gentleman too. I saw him at this event, and he's the guy that he's always mowing. Like one of the times I saw him, he was mowing grass. He's like a fixer-upper kind of guy, or what do you call it? A handyman kind of guy. One of the times I saw him, and he was mowing grass, and the lawnmower only had 3 wheels.
Okay.
So that's the type.
Harder.
That's the type of guy he is. Like he's just gonna keep working. And so he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, I need a coat." And he's like, "Can you get me a coat?" And I was like, "I can definitely get you a coat." On the podcast when we talked about him last, he's the one that we actually got in a whole bunch of clothing that for him. So. I feel like, I can get him a coat. He was like, I really need a hat too. He's like, I shaved my head and now I'm really cold.
Okay.
But I'm so glad that I am able to be in his life, because I love that he can just come up and he can ask. I love that he feels comfortable enough just to, ask me if he needs something. He's the one that his house burned down.
Yeah. I know.
And so I just feel like, the reason that I have stayed living here is one of the big ones is just the people who live here open up my eyes to situations that I wouldn't know exist if I didn't live here. And I would rather live life knowing, wow, there are people who need stuff, and then either be able to help them get it, or just be able to be there to be a ear to listen to.
Yeah, and Meg, I'm glad that I don't know who you're talking about, the person that asked that question. And honestly, we get that question asked a lot.
Yeah.
Different versions of that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
You know, why do you live here?
Yeah.
Is the same question as why do you stay living here? It's
Yeah.
the same question.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw any shade at anybody, but it's kind of a dumb question because, and
Okay.
well,
It was the older gentleman that asked me.
that's fine. I like older gentlemen
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, here's why I think it's a dumb question. Let me start with that. Maybe I
Okay.
should have ended what I'm about to say with,
Yeah.
and therefore I think that's a dumb question. I live here maybe because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, after living here for so long, I don't really understand why other people also don't want to.
Mm.
I don't really get it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of positives,
Mm-hmm.
and
Financially, it's pretty great.
sure. I mean, we've had our house paid off for like 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm in my early 40s
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't cost very much,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the property taxes are super low because the property values are super low.
Mm-hmm.
And I could list off a dozen other things that are like pretty great
Yeah.
about it. And I just don't think that's. I think it's a dumb question. Again, I'm not like trying to shit on anybody, but it's really great
Mm-hmm.
overall. And sure, there's bad things. There's bad things everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even know that the bad things for somebody that looks like us and somebody that has access or means or, you know, I have like I don't have a normal job, but you know, you don't really have a normal job either.
Yeah.
But you know, people that like can go out into the marketplace and make
Sure.
money
Yeah,
at a pretty reasonable rate
Mm-hmm.
and do it pretty predictably. It's a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we didn't do any of the things that we do in terms of we got this or, you know, with the rental properties or any of those other things that are, you know, in, I don't want to say like a charity, but like we do those things a lot of times for free or at a loss, financial loss, whatever. Like it really is pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes I get a little worried about trying to broadcast that because then I think, well, everybody's going to want to just move in and change the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I would really struggle to tell you the things that aren't great about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'd say the dumping,
yeah, that's not
which isn't the worst thing in the world.
awesome.
Yeah.
But
We talk about it a lot.
when is my, you know, I mean, besides the property that nobody knows that I own that is next to a house that had caught on, like, I get why it gets dumped on, but the other properties don't get dumped on,
Yeah.
you know, because it looks like somebody
Yeah.
lives there and because people do live there.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're taken care of because they are taken care of. And so you don't want to dump on them.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, for somebody that looks like us with our means, it really actually is. I mean, I would recommend it, you know, up to the point where then, you know, you don't want to just like flip a neighborhood and have it be, you know, completely gentrified and totally different because that's really unfair. You know, the people that are already living there, but yeah, I don't even know necessarily how I would have responded to that now. You know, I think I would have said, you know, some of the things that maybe you had said, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, but I just even really just struggle with like that really means that the general perception of the community is so low.
Which it is.
I know that it is.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have that experience of, you know, knowing people outside of the neighborhood, you know, if like that part of my life hadn't existed, like if I had grown up here,
Yeah.
like maybe our kids
Yeah.
would have, right? Like our kids aren't like I don't think, because they haven't really mentioned anything about it, But 20 years from now, I don't think our kids are going to look back and say like, I grew up in a bad neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I talk about that in the book. Like I don't.
Yeah.
They just don't know any different,
Mm-hmm.
and the perception is that this is terrible, and really it's not terrible.
It was pretty funny. Yesterday I took out Dex and my niece, and we were in like West Dallas or something, and she's like, "Whoa, this looks like such a bad neighborhood. There's like graffiti," and I was like, Ava, come to my neighborhood. Like, it was just like, it was such a funny, like, dude, no, like this, like, and so we had like this long conversation about like what a bad neighborhood is, and like, like how like even saying a bad neighborhood isn't, it's not a good thing to say, and like, what do our neighborhoods represent, and it was really funny though that she was real scared about this neighborhood that was far away.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
So then I would just add to the conversation. If you were just you didn't want to have if you were an individual with means that didn't necessarily want to even have an impact in the world, you were just content being in your own bubble doing your own things. I would say this is a great place to live. Mm-hmm. If you're an individual that you actually want to make a contribution to the world, which I think a lot of people do, then I would double down on my sentiment, and I would say that this would actually be a fantastic place to live. Or honestly, any place where you can be in close proximity to a higher level, a higher concentration of poverty than where you're used to.
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, that's the thing that separates a lot of, that separates people, but like the guy that needs a coat. Okay. I haven't needed a coat. The last time I bought a coat was probably the first time I'd ever bought a coat. And it's only because I chose not to go buy a coat. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not because I couldn't afford a coat. It's not because I didn't have a car to go get a coat. Mm-hmm. It's not because my mail gets stolen off my porch or anything. Mm-hmm. Like it just was. So I went and I bought one, right?
Yeah.
And there's actual good that can be done in the world when you position yourself around people that could use a little bit of help. Yeah. I was listening to maybe it was this book that you sent me, or maybe it was something else, but they were talking about a hospital. It's like one of these famous hospitals, and I'm butchering probably the whole story, but the point of the book was like trying to help your organization have an aligned vision towards one thing.
Sounds like the Brene Brown book.
That was, I think, what it was. Okay. And she's in there and she's talking about a hospital, and I think she goes to visit the hospital, and she's talking to a cleaner at the hospital, and the cleaner at the hospital, maybe it was Brene. That's how you say her name?
Brene, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe Brene is like asking the cleaner, like, well, what do you do here? And she, Brene doesn't know that this woman that she's talking to is a cleaner, and then the cleaner responds, I cure cancer is the thing that I do. And then she talks to somebody else, a nurse, I cure cancer. And then she talks to the person at the lunch line.
That's cool.
I cure cancer, right? I think that anybody that has that kind of mindset that, you want to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Helping or being in at least close proximity to find these entry points where you can do that, where you can help somebody, move beyond some of the constraints that exist when you live in poverty. Like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so, I would highly recommend, if that's the type of thing that you aspire towards, or you want to even say about yourself, just get in close proximity to an area of concentrated poverty, because the issue in our neighborhood, and I think this was actually the thing I wanted to talk about today, is the concentration. It's the concentration of poverty. It's just too high. It needs to be lower. And it is really basic. How do you lower the concentration? Well, you just don't have as much of a concentration, and you start skewing the average income up a little higher, and then you bump the mean up a little bit, and you do those things, and all of a sudden you look up and it's not the poorest zip code in the state anymore. It's pretty basic, pretty easy. But it does require, mindsets and personal sacrifice. But just to go back to that guy's question, I don't really know what my personal sacrifice
I was going to say,
has
yeah.
been. And I couldn't really point to it. I think probably 18 years ago, I probably could have told you what my personal sacrifice was in living here.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't even thought of living here in terms of a sacrifice in a very, very long time.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is like cleaning up glass. There's a lot of glass around.
Yeah.
That's
sure.
not a big sacrifice to make. I'm sure other places have glass that need to be
Yeah.
swept up.
Maybe when I was laying on the ground bleeding from my arm when I tripped on the sidewalk like 10 months ago, because it was dark and the sidewalks were uneven. Maybe I thought,
yeah.
But besides that,
Yeah.
people fall down all the time.
Yeah,
You fall down. You fall down in Port Washington. It's fine.
Yes.
So, all right, Meg, it's time to go. You got anything you want to plug?
I don't know if I have plugged this, but I was thinking, I should plug this. When I was there the other day, the MLK Library.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Heard good things.
It is beautiful. When I was younger, I guess. Yes.
So in the past.
In the past, especially when the kids were younger, is what I meant to say. I would feel like that was a fun thing to do in the winter. Like, let's just go, they have a day off or something, like, let's just go and see another library. And so I would say if you're in the Milwaukee area, the new MLK library is incredibly beautiful and has like a whole bunch of like nooks and crannies. And I just really recommend it. It's a beautiful space right down the street from us.
All right, check it out. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.